Hello everyone and welcome back to Unity of Command. This is the scenario Uman Pocket from the Blackturn DLC. As always, we are going to receive a brilliant victory here without spending any prestige. Uman Pocket, July the 15th, 1941. While the Romanians are still busy mopping up in Bessarabia, the slow withdrawal of the Soviet forces provides Army Group South with a chance to pocket elements of several Soviet field armies around Uman. And right off the bat, I'd like to say that this is a scenario that's in many regards similar to its kind of predecessor or prequel, Army Group South. However, it's much easier. Uman Pocket is listed as of medium difficulty, while Army Group South is listed as easy in the official scenario descriptions, which is ridiculous. Army Group South is extremely difficult to, at least to achieve a brilliant victory. I've never aimed for lower. But no matter how you think about it, Uman Pocket is one of the easiest scenarios. I think to achieve a major victory is just laughably easy. You will see why. And by the way, just as a side note, Tartar Ditch is also, the scenario Tartar Ditch is also classified as having medium difficulty, which is just outrageous. It's one of the most difficult scenarios of this campaign. So anyway, if we look at our forces, the Axis forces severely outnumber the Soviet forces in every regard, which is very unusual in itself, both in armor and in infantry. We'll see that the situation is not that great, however, but as I've said, even with little experience in games like this, this should be an easy scenario for you to win, even in first try. We also get precisely one bridging action, which we need to use at a very specific location in order to win. Now, the thing is that that this scenario is built around the idea of supply, and this is supposed to be one of those scenarios where you cut the enemy off from supply and then they just simply collapse after a few turns. However, if you want to achieve a brilliant victory here, you simply do not have the time to do that. So we are going to play a bit with supply, but the main idea is that you have to drive for the 3 objective victory points directly. And immediately you can see that the setup is somewhat similar to the scenario Army Group South, in that in the south we have a lot of Romanian troops, these guys in brownish gray, complementing the German units there. In the middle we have the Hungarians, and our main forces, or rather our strongest forces, are in the south, where the terrain is also the most optimal for their approach. But let's not go so far ahead. Let's check out the map and its details first. First of all, the objectives. We have 3 objectives to hit, as I've mentioned already. First one to hit is right in the middle of the map. It's Uman. The panzers, the panzers, must race through Uman in order to close the pocket quickly. We need to capture this town by the end of turn 4. And then we have 2 further objectives to be captured by the end of turn 5. Balta. Capture Balta to prevent Southern Front from sending reinforcements to Southwestern Front. And we also have Pervomaisk. This is where the Panzer spearhead should link up with the infantry advancing from Bessarabia. Alright. If you look at this map, immediately what will strike you is that there is nothing on the eastern half or eastern 1/3 of the map. And this is not really going to change unless you race ahead. Then you are not going to. So the enemy is not going to spawn any units there. There is not going to be anything of interest really there. So it this scenario could be smaller. The only reason it's there in the east is because of supply, and the supply is the name of the game here. The Soviets have 2 supply points, both of them on roads at the edges of the map. However, if you capture this one in the south, which is very, very close to our front line, in fact it's only 3 steps or 3 hexes away, and capture or cut off supply to the east, then they'll start to run dry very fast. This one is a bit trickier to capture, but you can very easily dash ahead, and you can at least cut the Soviets off. So that is why I mentioned that winning this map or obtaining a major victory here on this map is not at all difficult, because it's very easy to do that in a couple of turns, to cut them off fully from supply, and then they'll just simply they'll simply evaporate after a few turns. Now we are not going to do that. We are not going to capture the easternmost one. And by the way, this is also why the map is so big, so that you can rush ahead and the Soviets cannot do anything about it. If the supply source was closer, then you would have to have a trickier fight in order to capture it. Our supply, on the other hand, is also crucial. We have one in the north that's on a road. However, it quickly goes off map, and unfortunately there is no way to extend it. So it connects Rovno to Kiev, and that's there so that it supplies the northern units for the time being. But before they could advance very far, they would have to be we would have to find another source for them. The supply source in the south is once again only sufficient to supply our units here, and that's it basically. Once we cross the river, it will soon start to run out. So that's also not going to be our main source. Instead, our main source is the one in the middle with a range of 6, that is on the road, on the main road that crisscrosses through the map. So what that means is that we have to clear out as much of the road as possible. At the very least, you have to clear out the road between Vinnytsia and Kiev, or rather Vinnytsia and Cherkasy, so that the panzer units in the north and the mobilized division remain in supply. I also want to take a look at the terrain real quick, because that's also crucial, obviously. We have 2 rivers right in the middle here, the Dniester and I don't know which one it is. And the thing is that the north is very open, so the area the area of the north is extremely easy to exploit and excellent for tank warfare. And since we have the better units, this is by far the easiest sector of this scenario. However, in the middle and in the south, we have these hills right beyond river points where the bridges have been demolished. So the going gets really tough here almost immediately. So what that means in practice is that the only effective units that can quickly break the enemy and wash them off the map are these ones in the north, whereas the other ones will actually have to you have to play them very carefully, and you have to start preparing for the fact that the Soviets are no longer that easy to dispose of. In fact, they very easily match the Axis forces, the German forces as well. If you look at this, then you can immediately see that none of these units have any experience. They are standard level infantry divisions. In fact, the only infantry divisions with any experience are these 3 Gebirgsjäger units, and with the entrenchment on high ground, especially, or behind river, these units are actually superior on the defense than your units are on the offense. So we're gonna suffer quite a lot of casualties on this map, because we do need to make some kinds of push here and there. So how do you win this? Well, if you're going for a normal or even a major victory, it's very simple. Somehow try to force your way across this river, perhaps repair this bridge here, and then capture their supply point here. And in the north, it's really easy. Crush them anywhere and send one of your units. This is your weakest fast-moving unit, the motorized division, and send it across, send it ahead, and capture or at least cut off their supply. And after a few turns, this whole pocket is just going to collapse. However, if you want to win it with a brilliant victory, you don't have the time to do that. In fact, we're going to do something similar, but a bit more bold and a bit more thorough. We're going to actually cut through the enemy line around here in this area, because we need to drive directly to Uman. But we're also going to still going to send this Motorizierta Division ahead, threatening to cut off their supply lines. These two moves together will force the Soviets to kind of panic, the AI to kind of panic, and it will try to halt our movements or delay our movements, and it will reposition its forces, at least some of its forces here. This will allow us to clear out the road slowly. It is going to be a very costly battle, by the way, but we are still going to clear out the road. In the middle sector, there is not much you can achieve really, and your only concern should be trying to capture as much of the road as you can, while also screening off the Soviets, so to protect your flank. In the south, we are going to force a river crossing here against this division, because it also sits at an end of a broken bridge, and this is going to be very costly, but once you manage, then you can immediately repair the bridge, and in the next turn you can flood across. At the very least, you cannot be dislodged, so there is going to be a lot of bloodbath there, and it's going to be almost like trench warfare, you know, not much advance on either side. Once again, our goal is to protect the road, protect the road, and to wear down the Soviet forces enough so that you can capture Balta here. Now, these two objectives, so Uman itself and Pervomaisk, will both be captured by the panzer units from the north. So they have to drive practically in a straightforward line towards the southeast. Whereas Balta will be captured by, well, anything else. As you can see, after a while the Soviet lines will collapse, so this is not a very difficult scenario, as I've said, but it still shows that the Soviets are much superior now than they used to be. If you look at it, our units only have 6 steps now, or the tanks only have 5 actually. And as I've mentioned, the experience level is much lower, and the Soviets quite often field units with 7 steps now, and we'll see some reinforcements will be extremely strong as well from their perspective, and much stronger than what we saw in the first trio of opening scenarios. So let's see how we start. The very first move I try to make is to cut through to the southeast, but it doesn't go very well, so I give up on this idea. This is, by the way, the first try, so I managed to beat this scenario on the first try, and my original idea was to use the middle sector to try to push kind of forwards on this road. But that is a bad idea, and I quickly abandoned this after just one bad battle, basically. And then I do what you should as well, so open the front line in the north, push through the gap, and since this Soviet infantry fled forwards for some reason, it allows us to, it gives us an opportunity to destroy it with our regular infantry units. It still doesn't go very easily, even though it's outnumbered, and we are still supposed to be stronger, so I mean the attributes of the German infantry division are better than the Soviet ones. But anyway, we push forward and we hit this tank division, the 37th Soviet Tank Division, and now we have a gap in their lines, which also kind of scares them a bit with their supply situation. It's not terrible, everything for them is still in supply at this moment, but we want to, as I've mentioned, we want to scare them into thinking that they might be cut off. I send our only Motorizierta Division to the east, northeast, so that the Soviets also feel threatened there, and in case they move away, it can dash forwards to cut them off. And by the way, we receive 0 reinforcements in this map. You can buy them for prestige as always, but obviously we don't do that. So what you see is what you get on this map. Now I'm just closing off the gaps. I'm trying to cause casualties, but as you see, it goes horribly. So you really should try to avoid attacking unless the proposed results or the promised results, the forecasts seem promising. In the south, as I've mentioned, we need to remove this unit here, the 164th Rifle Division, and force a crossing, while also keeping one of our one of these 3 infantry units in place, because that's the only way that you can cross a bridge if that's all you spend your movement points on. So basically I just send them attacking, and they come like bloodied and kind of beaten. But at the very least, now the Soviet infantry has lost its all of its active steps now, and we can remove it, and this unit can now move across. Great. And now immediately I build the bridge. As I've mentioned, the Soviets, while they are extremely powerful in the defense, they are not really good at offensively, especially here in the south. These are standard rifle divisions, so while they are excellent if they are in a dug-in position behind rivers or on high ground or whatever, they are really not going to attack you unless they want to suffer horrible casualties, and which the AI is not going to do. So this bridgehead is kind of secure, and from now on I'm just going to try to stabilize the line, shuffle some units around so that the Romanians cover the flanks and the Germans are at the front, so they can advance ahead once the coast is clear. And that's really it for this first turn. And now the Soviets, as I've mentioned, in the north, they try to plug the gap that we hit in their line, and they don't have an easy time of it, because they would have to move against everything. The terrain is unfavorable for them, and we're superior overall. We also cannot be cut off. Always make sure, and this is the first scenario where you really have to be careful that you're not cut off. Especially in the north, there are very few units, and the AI loves to do that, and that can cause you grief. Now, in turn 2, I want to continue, expanding our bridgehead, so we are pushing. This infantry unit is not entrenched, so I just keep throwing units at it, and eventually it goes down. And yep, I managed to advance. I didn't realize that this unit was on high ground, and you can see, even though our unit is supposedly superior, it has more steps. Well, it has 6 steps against 5. And the enemy unit is not entrenched, so it does not get a defense bonus from that, but it is on the high ground, unfortunately, and so it suffers only 1 step casualty, while we suffer 2 steps. So this is the power now. So this is what you have to calculate now. So this is what you have to count with, that your units are not that much superior. Here, for instance, that was an even fight, so the Soviets were on even ground. It literally didn't have any advantage in defense, and it still managed to destroy 1 step, while also losing only 1 step as well. So now I'm just trying to clear out the road. Also try to destroy as much as we can of the Soviets, especially the more dangerous units. And this tank is going to clear out the way, or try to, for the motorized division in the north. Fortunately, it kind of works out, and we already send it ahead. This is not yet at all dangerous for the Soviets. They're in good supply. At least the vast majority of their units are in good supply. So it's apart from these few units, which are going to be cut off, by the way. Everything else remains in supply, but the AI will realize the threat. Alright, we're trying to mop up stragglers and trying to destroy as much of them as possible. And also, as I've mentioned, we really want to clear out the road, so that is a priority for us. We don't manage completely, but at the very least we will be able to connect it up until around this point. Our attack in the middle sector goes horribly, but I don't want to wait. We don't have much time to waste, so basically I'm just throwing units at the road, the Soviet units holding the road itself, and thereby also advancing our supply. And at this moment, the the main supply route, the only supply route that we have actually, is connected up until this point, and in the south up until this point. So only a few hexes remain to be cleared, and then basically we're all set. I'm sending the Hungarian cavalry ahead because I don't care if we lose them. They're practically worthless, but they're very fast. And this way, hope that the Soviets catch this bait and somehow attack it or allocate forces against it at the very least. This motorized brigade is very weak, but it's sufficient to protect this road junction, this important road junction. We cannot leave it empty. The Soviets will move into it and then cut us off. Yep, so just screen off your supply route, protect it, and that's it. Now, the Soviets are in full supply practically. Only this one single unit is out of supply, and of course the one that's being cut off. And now it starts receiving reinforcements. Cavalry units are quite weak, but it also receives a combined unit of 2 tank divisions, which has a combined strength of 7 steps. So it's practically their best unit currently on the map. And they cannot do really much. They also counter-threaten, kind of. They want to show that they can also try to cut us off. Not that it will work. And the AI tries to reshuffle its units because it wants to make sure that we stay as far from the victory point as possible. However, this way it gives up its control of the supply route, which it was precarious anyway. So it's not like we probably would have been able to force it out anyway. This hex is clear ground, so it's not even high ground or elevation. But now I'm pretty sure that we can take this city Balta by the end of turn 5, because we have 3 turns to do so, and we only have a couple of units that are not entrenched, well, apart from this one, defending it. So things are looking good already when we lose our first unit. This is the power of the Soviets now, although they heavily outnumbered us here in this battle. And we managed to cause them equal amounts of casualties. They can now mop up our weakened units. So you have to count with that as well, that if you leave any of your weak units vulnerable or open to attack, they will get mopped up. I don't know why they didn't attack the Hungarians, but the AI at the very least captured the bait and allocated 2 of its best units to just shield it off from whatever. Now in our turn, we're just really trying to clean up. I also want to clear out the road completely, and the reason for that is to have all our tank units in supply, and also I also want to keep this motorized division in supply. I rush it ahead, but because I really need to rush this one ahead so that the Soviets feel threatened. I know that there is a high chance that it might get completely cut off, but still, this way the Soviets will completely be out of supply apart from the southern supply route. So that way they will do irrational. They will take irrational actions, and that's what I really want to see here. I'm trying to destroy this kind of straggler unit, but it's quite resilient, and we have to keep on pushing. Once it is destroyed, we arrive right next to Uman, which is our first objective to hit, and we need to capture it during the next turn. So it's imperative that we are near it, and we are. Now I'm just worried that this unit will be cut off, but not that much because it's in full supply, and so it can take 1 turn being cut off, so it's not that important. We got lucky in the north and destroyed this unit, so at this moment there is nothing that the Soviets possess up north from this line, and thereby we can start to roll them up. This goes excellently, as you can see, and we are just rushing ahead. I tried to send the Hungarians against the Soviets, but they still cannot mop this unit up. Now, this was a very important move. We moved this veteran Gebirgsjäger mountain division unit ahead, and now we are in full supply as far as the eye can see, so we are not in danger of running out of supply in the southern and middle sectors, as long as we can protect the supply route, which should not be difficult. and we arrive right next to the victory point, which we still have 2 further turns to take. So I'm pretty sure that things will go well in the south. The Romanians can destroy that unit even attacking across the river, and even though they suffer casualties, I don't care. These units are not really useful for much. And now I send my unit across, and you might be wondering why we didn't do that earlier. The reason is that I was afraid that if I do that, they will push it back or even just attack it. It would get cornered and destroyed. But now I'm no longer afraid. Even if this Soviet unit attacks it, then you know, it will probably suffer casualties, and it has wasted its action on this pretty worthless unit. And besides, we're just basically destroying them. So I'm not afraid of practically anything happening here. The north, the situation is a bit worse because we need to make sure that our supply lines are intact, and this repulsed attack did not have help. And so I try to allocate some forces to the north and have partial success, but this relatively strong infantry division, Soviet infantry division, actually holds literally the line, the supply line. And now we're just shielding everything. I put this, I threw this Romanian cavalry unit forward. It is relatively weak, but if the Soviets attack it, then it will defend itself on high ground. And I think this unit will be out of supply and won't be able to attack next turn anyway, so that's also fine. Unfortunately, we did not manage to clear out the path in the north completely, but nothing threatens our supply lines. So apart from this advanced tank unit, panzer unit, and the motorized division, everything else should be in supply and remain in supply by the beginning of the next turn. And now we're just, you know, shuffling units about a bit. Alright, as you can see, immediately the Soviets are starting to run dry. Here in the west, of course, the units that are cut off especially, but here in the west they also did not receive supply. And now it's time for the reinforcements, and you know, this unit cut our panzer division off, but it wouldn't have received supply anyway, so it's kind of useless. The Soviets rout the Romanians, which is of zero consequence really. And after a few more battles, the their turn is over. They cannot do much. And at this very moment, at the beginning of our turn, the first move I make is to capture their southern supply source, and that means that they are all completely out of supply. So their supply starts here. There is a forest there, so that slows it down anyway. And the furthest it can reach is probably around the other side of the bridge. So this unit might remain in supply, but that's about it. Everything else will start to run dry, and these units won't be able to attack, etc. Now it's time to finish this. We need to capture Uman this turn. So unfortunately, we cannot wait for them to collapse by themselves. We need to actively help this process. And yeah, we clear out the stragglers, and we also liberate the road, or capture the road completely. That way we can have supply up until this point, these 2 points. And I send my motorized infantry unit just enough so that it will receive supply the next turn. There is nothing threatening this supply line, by the way. The enemy cannot cut it off. I'm 100% sure of that. And even though this unit would have to attack across the river to assist in the next and hopefully final turn to capture Pervomaisk, at least it would be able to do something. That's my logic here. And once again, there is no opposition here, or nothing opposing this unit. So this was the idea behind it. In the end, I never got to use this unit, but that's fine. And by the way, this unit has been out of supply for 2 turns, so it cannot attack it this turn, but it only lost 1 step to suppression because it's a very strong veteran unit. Now it's time to capture Uman. That's the top priority because it absolutely needs to be done this turn. And so I'm just throwing a few units at it. After breaching it, this should be easy, and it is. And I still think somehow that our units can deal with the Soviets on equal terms, but don't send a weaker infantry unit against a stronger tank unit. And that makes me realize that we will have to we will have to deal with this tank unit in some other way, because we cannot wait for it to run out of supply. So I attack it with my tank. It also goes badly, so rather weakly. But there is no time to waste. We rush ahead, and this way the AI cannot bunch up units in front of this victory point, Pervomais. We can attack it directly if we can keep our units in supply. We captured we captured Uman, our first victory point, and now we're just forcing our way into Balta. This should not be difficult, as I've mentioned, and it won't be. Yes, they are resisting, they are on high ground entrenched. This is a motorized division, but we simply outnumber them too much, and they just die. We cannot capture it, funnily enough, nor do we really want to. We have one more turn to do that, and there is nothing threatening it. This unit won't be able to attack. This unit is already quite weak. This one will probably enter the victory point, victory hex, just to protect it, but it's much weaker than the one that was defending it, so I'm 100% certain that we won in the southwest at least. And so now there is nothing to lose. I just throw units at it. This is not very wise, by the way, but the idea was that I would have to deal with less in the next turn. But for instance, this attack did nothing and we lost a unit, so that again, that wasn't the best move I could have taken. There is no way for this unit to resupply, so any damage it got dealt, including any suppression, will be carried over. Alright, once again trying to mop up, trying to clear out as many of the enemy forces as we can, and the Romanians are excellent at clearing up really totally depleted enemy units, so they're good at destroying very weakened infantry divisions. And since these units won't be able to attack the next turn anyway, we can just screen our supply route and our other units with anything practically, no matter how weak that unit is. The Soviet forces, at least these two units, won't be able to attack it. Our attack gets lucky, and this unit, since it's on the northern side of the river, it gets cornered, so it loses all its active steps. It has no way, zero chances of regaining them, so it's just practically dead, and we send the Romanians to finish them off. Yep. And what I'm doing here is I'm trying to make sure that we remain in supply. Supply comes from the closest is this bridge, and so all our units except for that one tank division, Panzer Division in the south that dashed forward, is remaining in supply, and that's important. Now the Soviets are completely cut off, quite literally. All of their units are cut off, if you look at it. We didn't need to capture this supply source, and if we waited just a couple of more turns, then they would be, completely washed off the map. But we don't have any more turns to wait. We have to win this battle in the next one. So as predicted, this unit tries to hold the victory point, not that it stands any chance of doing so. And that was an interesting move. And what I think happened is that this tank unit is not giving up, and it tries to recapture the supply route for itself. We haven't captured the supply source, so it could obtain supply for the next turn, and so the AI is not giving up, and it's still trying to regain at least partial supply for its units. It's completely hopeless. And yeah, that's really it. They're trying to regroup, but there is nothing really to regroup towards. They have practically nothing apart from a few stragglers. I'm clearing out some. I'm trying to clear out some stragglers, and I'm now decided to capture Balta. This is a very easy objective. In fact, the Romanians will finish it, and the Romanians get to capture it as well. This unit is going to fall as well. The Romanian cavalry is going to finish it off and advance. And now it's time to finish this whole campaign. Oh, sorry, this whole scenario. We have sufficient units to attack this one, and the enemy didn't have enough. The AI didn't even have enough units to screen off its final objective, victory hex. So this is promising to be an easy battle now that everyone is in supply. And our very first attack goes lucky, and the AI unit flees. This Soviet Southern Front element infantry unit flees from its victory hex position, and at this moment we have won. This unit has not moved at all, so it can simply just roll in and win. And at first I decide to try to clear out of the map as much as I can, but then I realized that these two units, especially the infantry unit, can flee randomly back into its victory hex, and I might fail this mission, so I decide to just simply end it right here. I could have destroyed, or could have tried to destroy these three units. They didn't have the chance to move in there, so so I could have just, you know, cleared out the map a little bit more, and I would have definitely succeeded. So these are not very powerful units at all. But anyway, this was how it ended. I wouldn't have attacked these two units, so I wouldn't have cleared out the whole map anyway. So once again, this is a very, very, very easy map. In fact, it's probably the easiest map so far. In the north, you are practically unopposed in the sense that nothing the Soviets have measures up to your forces, to any of your forces. Practically, you have this very strong veteran motorized division with 6 steps, and you have 3 veteran Panzerdivisionen, and yeah, so they have nothing that can even withstand it, or you know, stand against it even defensively. So you can just crush them any way you want, and if you are not looking for a brilliant victory, then just rush, you know, crush them and rush at least one unit here to the northeast. Focus in the south to recapture or at least cut off the other supply as well, and then they'll just collapse. The situation in the south is a bit more tricky, but try to follow my my actions if you want to. Don't use the middle sector. So in fact, I would recommend, you know, sending only a few units to the south to push towards this objective to Balta, and the rest to the north to link up with your northern forces and to clear out this supply route, and it should go you know, as planned. This was my first try, so it wasn't that clean because I did some took some unnecessary action, and you know, some of my ideas didn't work out as they should, as I expected them, unfortunately. But still, as you could see, there our brilliant victory was never in danger. So we were never far from achieving it. We were never delayed or anything like that. There is nothing that these meager Soviet units can do, because the most important front line in the north is simply too weak to offer any substantial resistance against our push. That's it. So this was Uman Pocket. I thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye bye.